Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it's a very special time because, one, we have beer.
Cheers.
Hello. Shout out to Alasa Brewing. Kyle Guerrero's on the podcast once again.
Thank you. I'm back.
And for a lot of people who don't know, Kyle was my very first podcast. I guess you could see it. It wasn't even a guest because I wasn't like officiating my podcast back then. It was funny because I woke up hungover as fuck. He was late. He had that exact same mic. I had this mic, and we just held him like this.
I remember that.
And he was bouncing up and down on my bed like that.
I was happy. I think I was your co-host, not quite a guest, but
that's when we had. No, this is before Pyroclass. This is a while back.
Yeah, this was the first ever.
Pyroclass is unfortunately obsolete because people moved out to Lake Los Angeles. Eder, yeah, I'm calling you out, bitch.
But it was good, man. Yeah, that was the first podcast in a series of many that you've been doing with lots of different people, you know, primarily our small group of friends at first, and you've branched out, and now you got your own thing, man. I'm stoked.
I'm trying to think how many times I've had you on. I've had you on probably 6 times.
Yeah.
And then 2 were very, very informative podcasts. So if you're browsing on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, whatever, just search for the Kyle Guerrero episodes and take notes. Yeah. So if not, fuck you. So
yeah, man. Well, what's on the menu for today?
So today, first and foremost, let's catch up with Kyle. Kyle is playing like 80 gigs a day. He is
almost.
Fuck. Okay. Well. Okay. Name all your regular spots that you're playing.
All right. Well, a lot of my solo gigs are within the San Gabriel Valley. We're talking Pasadena, West Covina, Laverne, and I'm playing at the Vertical Wine Bistro.
People in San Fernando are like, where's that at?
Right. That's on Fridays. On Sundays, I've been doing Alasta Brewing, which has changed. I'll probably start doing Saturdays there.
Right here, look at
and on Thursdays, I'm at the Bread and Barley in Covina.
On Thursdays?
Thursdays, yeah, kind of random. Not every Thursday, right. Just maybe like every third Thursday. But yeah, doing the thing. And then on Fridays, I'm doing a gig in downtown LA, but that's more of a private thing.
When are you doing Mount Low? Because I know a lot of listeners have tuned in and inquired about that particular gig.
Shout out to all those joints everywhere that I play. I love everybody who works there, and they're always really good to me. Mount Low is one of the first joints that I really started playing at a lot. And
was it?
Yeah. Well, really, it was Rocco's Tavern, which I'm going to be back at on Sundays.
Oh, Rocco's Tavern in Pasadena.
Yeah, Rocco's Tavern in Pasadena. I'm going to start doing on Sundays, starting July the 7th.
Okay.
So swing by there and catch me jamming around noon for 3 hours. But after Rocco's, I found Mount Low Brewery, which was a new brewery.
It was fairly
new. It's only like 2 years old now, maybe a little older.
It's fairly young. Yeah.
And so now I'm gigging with them. It's kind of random. It's not like the other joints where it's every, the same day of the week. This is more up in the air.
Yeah.
But I just played there yesterday, and I'll be back on the 30th next Sunday.
Week. Okay, so let me just inform everybody and clarify exactly how many he plays like in 50 bands, but there's him by himself, which is Kyle Guerrero. He does bar mitzvahs, quinceañeras, fucking divorce parties,
circumcisions,
vasectomies. But then he has Smack Tones, and Smack Tones is, shout out to, you guys have seen him, Mr. Cliff Conway.
And Harley Hopkins.
Shout out to the homegirl, Harley Hopkins. But how does that, how do you decide when you're going to go solo and then actually collaborate with Harley?
Right.
Or Cliff? Or all three?
It really just kind of depends. Probably the biggest factor is how much I'm getting paid. If I have enough money to divvy up, then I'll do that. I want to bring these guys on with me as much as possible. It's kind of like an investment in our skills because, for example, we got booked for, the opportunity came up for me to play at Catalina Island at the museum for a company. And they decided that they wanted a more full band experience. So I was like, hey, well, I've already been gigging with Harley and Cliff. Let me bring them along and and that's what's going to happen. So they upped our budget, and we're
Does the playlist change when you incorporate Harley into the?
Yeah. I'm
because she's got more range, man.
right. Yeah. She can do a lot of cool oldies and R&B type stuff. She's good at country. She does it all. You know, she got a phenomenal female voice. And, you know, we do a little bit less hip hop when she's performing with me, but with Cliff, we do a little bit more of the hip hop stuff because he can actually rap and take over those parts. I can do a little bit myself as well. But
that's fucking crazy. He can rap and play drums at the same time.
He's a rapping drummer. There are a few people who can do that.
All right. So we're going to get right into I'm not going to call them controversial topics, but I'm going to call them very important topics. Because a lot of you people that follow me for some fucking reason don't know shit. And I'm not saying all of you, but I'm going to call out Gilbert.
Oh, shit.
Okay.
Prepare to get triggered.
Because he likes me a lot.
Good.
Anyway, one of the biggest things I have always been an advocate for, and I never understood why it didn't come sooner, but better late than never, is the legalization of natural plants. What does that include? It includes cannabis. It includes fucking poison oak. You know, whatever.
Mushrooms.
Mushrooms.
Psilocybin.
Yeah. And there's another. I forgot what plant is outlawed because of its benefits, but.
There's quite a few. You've got peyote.
Peyote's another one.
Ayahuasca. Ibodanga.
Ibodonga's outlawed too, right?
There's
hemp.
Hemp that's probably the most ridiculous because it's more of an industrial usage anyway.
And quite frankly, it's probably one of the most useful and more, I guess you could say, productive plants when it comes to any kind of like mass production, when it comes to rope, and when it comes to any kind of construction.
Yeah, it does everything. Industrial, uses from anything that plastics and metals can do.
Yeah.
Hemp has been shown to be extremely versatile and cover any one of those aspects.
I didn't know you can make straws out of hemp.
You fucking name it. You can make
t-shirts. You can make cock rings.
Yeah, you can make clothing out of hemp.
Yeah, you can make cock rings out of hemp.
Wow.
But regardless, it's coming. And now Oakland, shout out to the city of Oakland. They're legalizing magic mushrooms. And shout out to also Denver, Colorado, who's also
right. They did it first. They did it first.
I'm glad because personally, and I'm sure you've tried them as well. I have too. I wasn't too enthused about them because it didn't have the full experience because I mixed it with alcohol. So I passed out. So I didn't ritually like sit down in group, probably out like on a hike or whatever where it's nice and cool.
Nature,
like, I didn't do that, and that was my bad. But now I'm really, really jealous of the people who are doing it the right way.
Right.
And I'm just like, motherfuckers, man. But now this introduction of legalization, I'm like, okay, now I can go get them and plan a spiritual fucking experience with the people I most not only love, but are most dear to me.
Right.
And
that's an awesome way to think of it because really that's what these plants are meant for.
Yeah.
How, you can say that these medicines were discovered by ancient, tribes people.
Yeah.
And used for those purposes.
It's safe to say our ancestors.
They weren't going to keggers and partying with these plants. You know what I mean? They were using them for spiritual purposes. But that's only really just one way to use them. You can also microdose with them, which is what a lot of people do to combat depression
and addiction.
So, exactly. Yeah. So they have good uses for multiple different areas of whatever.
I heard it's good for writer's block too. Like if you're a lot of musicians obviously listen to the podcast.
A lot of those plants can help you to be so creative and countless numbers of writers and musicians have just straight specifically thanked plants for their artwork. And I forget who it was, but somebody even thanked LSD. I remember one time for the invention of something. God,
I've never done it.
It's going to kill me. I can't think of it, but I know that for sure there was somebody who invented something specific in the 20th century, and he thanked straight up LSD. He's like,
Really?
Yeah, he's like, I wouldn't have thought of this for LSD. And I think one of those people is
I know Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs, yeah, I was just
Steve
gonna say
Jobs
from
is one
Apple.
of them. Even Bill Gates. I'm sure Bill Gates used to.
No, that dude's way stuck up and tight. I feel like.
I don't know. Maybe he 360. He 180. I'm sure he said, you know what? I'm not this person anymore, and now he's a fucking zillionaire.
Yeah, he's crazy.
Not to say Steve Jobs wasn't, but
anyhow, yeah,
let me ask you this: what has been your experience with? I'm not just going to specify mushrooms, but and I don't want to call them hallucinogenics because they're not. I mean, they are, but
they're entheogenic plants, which means that they have hallucinatory properties.
Right.
But not just that. You know, like we were saying, if you can take small doses, then they take on different things based on the biochemistry of the plant. You know, it's not going to fully engage certain aspects of your brain that cause hallucination.
Yeah.
You know, it just depends on the dose, just like any medicine.
Yeah. And the plants that fall under this category are not only mushrooms. Is mushroom considered a plant?
Mushroom is a fungus,
fungi,
but
right?
it's lumped into that category.
Okay. Peyote is also considered a plant-ish.
Right.
I think salvia is another one, right?
Yep.
Salvia and cannabis, of course. But cannabis is doesn't have as much hallucinogenic properties. Even like a high, like potent strain is not as...
You know, for some people, I think that it does. It just depends. Like
depending on the
these
biochemistry,
days, these days, what they're growing is just so much different than what I remember smoking as a kid.
It's a fucking science project. That's what it is.
Yeah, it really is a science project, and it's for some people too much. You know,
think so?
That you can, well, I mean, if you're not used to it, for people who smoke all the time, it's just kind of what they need to trigger that aspect of their brain. But for a lot of people, if you've never smoked a high THC potent strain of marijuana, you're going to go on a fucking ride. You will probably hallucinate. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Roger. I know you're listening to us.
So anyway, I mean, I know me, even just the weak shit that we had when I was in school, like I would have weed. I would have audio. Well, not that bad, but I was smoking stress. We were kind of we weren't that but
get that shake.
I would have auditory hallucinations. Like I would hear music like crazy.
I was the same way.
So hallucinations aren't just like visual, but yeah. So then you have also ayahuasca.
Yeah,
and ayahuasca is that jungle brew that has made its way into the States.
Let's actually kind of educate people right there, because I'm sure a lot of people have heard the name ayahuasca and they don't know what the fuck it is. And it is, of course, it's a plant. And
it's a brew, actually. It's comprised of two plants.
Two plants.
It's the bark and the root of two separate plants made into a brew.
We don't want to like go over your heads with what the names are and shit like that, but just know it's like it's a cocktail.
Yeah,
it's a cocktail of a root and a plant.
Yeah, it's what you would call a decoction. That's what they call it.
Decoction, okay. Yeah. And what it's meant to do is, I've read a lot of Western like depictions of what it's supposed to do, because of course a lot of Westerners have
it's all we know
purge that everyone knows about.
Right.
Like for example, I didn't know. Like I talked to I think it was a shaman a long time ago. And I asked him, I'm like, how the fuck you know this shit? And he looks at me like, are you stupid? Like the plants told me. And I'm like, I don't talk to plants, dude.
That's what it feels like, man.
And he's like, well, you don't talk to plants. Like they give you what you need.
That's so funny.
And I'm like, what the fuck? Back then I was young and naive. So I didn't know. This was like fucking 17 years ago. But, so your experience with all that stuff has been just auditory hallucinations, or like you've actually
No, with marijuana, the farthest it had been would probably be auditory hallucinations. Using mushrooms is more of a visual experience and a awesome body experience. With ayahuasca,
the body I felt,
right. With ayahuasca, you definitely go through a lot of phases, and it's kind of the culture to not really talk too much about your own personal experience because not because it's good or bad, but just because you don't want people to have expectations. It's different for everybody.
Keyword expectations. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Like you want to go in with your own personalized like experience.
Right. Right.
Ayahuasca.
But what I will say is that if you're going to do ayahuasca, you want to make sure that you follow the proper protocols of the ceremony, because when you do it, you have to be in ceremony. This is just simply, it's too strong of a drug to take in a social situation. It's just not going to work. You're not going to be able to function.
It's not a party drug.
You're not going to function. It's just not going to fucking work. And it's
going to fuck you up.
It's 100% not meant to be like that. So you have to be in a ceremonial situation with, an ayahuasquero, who you could call a shaman, but he's basically just preparing the plant medicine. Yeah. And he knows how to...
It's kind of like a barista. Basically. Right. Yeah, let me get a triple.
And he knows... Well, you can do that if you want. They keep serving it. But,
really?
but most people can't hang. It's funny because the ceremony is about 6 hours.
Yeah.
And typically within the first hour or two, people have already purged. But then they'll ask... Does anybody want more? And that always gets people laughing because there's fucking people purging all over the place. And yet it's just the idea of somebody wanting more after that is funny. But anyhow.
Now, is it disrespectful to decline or?
No. They just offer it. Like you can come up if you want more. Yeah. So anyhow, the ceremony that I experienced, because I didn't do this in the jungle, which is, traditionally what you're supposed to do. That's where it originated. But now they're having ceremonies in Los Angeles all the time. Yeah. And in, places like Oakland and Colorado, it's legal. So you don't have to necessarily hide about it. Yeah. But anyhow, the ceremony will start by being opened by the shaman, and it's the place has already been saged. You'll probably be in a group of 5 to 20 people, and you've got musicians there typically because the music will help you. They're singing what are called medicine songs. Yeah, the music kind of helps guide you through your spiritual journey.
I've listened to those medicine songs, and just on a sober mind, I'm just like, whoa.
Yeah, it's beautiful when you're sober. Now, imagine being on a fucking mystical experience, realizing your purpose in life and listening to these songs. I mean, I don't speak a whole lot of Spanish.
I'm supposed to open up a liquor store on Garfield in Maine.
Hey, man, if that's your calling. But
that's dope.
Yeah, it's a beautiful experience. And, you kind of touch what is called the Christ consciousness by some mystics, where it's just kind of like, you feel pure love and everything has been forgiven, and you kind of have like a clean slate.
Probably the best Western like analogy you can use, which is the Christ analogy, I guess you could say, because a lot of Westerners refer to Christ as being the all-loving, the all-forgiving,
all forgiving and benevolent being in history.
Man, that's fucking great.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, and it's really helpful for people who have suffered trauma, people who have PTSD from, any form of abuse or from war or something like that. It's really been shown to cure, or at least help people cope with many things. Wow. So I would recommend it to anybody, but it's not something to take. It's not something to take lightly. It's a very, very serious experience. It's considered the most potent plant medicine on the planet.
That's awesome, because why wouldn't you want to legalize something that would want to help people? But of course the politics kick in, and then you realize, okay, because it doesn't have a paywall. That's the fucked up part. Yeah. And but when it does, that's when it becomes less natural. And that's what's happening with cannabis, which is kind of fucked up, because before you know it, it's I don't know, we're probably seeing it now. Marlboro fucking cannabis.
We'll I wouldn't doubt it.
No, Carl's Jr. is going to have their first cannabis infused. I think it's cannabis infused burger.
And that's the thing that worries me a little bit is that they're legalizing it, and that's good. That's a good thing, because you're putting the choice and the power back in the hands of the people to one extent. Yeah. But the other extent is that the government is mandating it and they're regulating it. Yeah. Creating their own strains, and we don't. What we used to have was, for the most part, clean, natural herbs and strains. I mean, I'm sure there are dudes who are, GMOing the fuck out of it. I should made that a verb. But the government is 100% going to do that, and regardless of the health or repercussions, like they do with our food. All the pesticides and all that shit that Monsanto's doing to our food. You better believe they're going to do that to plant medicine. 100%. That's just the way that they function. That's the way that they think.
And the reason I say they have to is because it's in their nature to do so. Because that's the goal of a company like Monsanto. It's like they want to grow the exact same shit.
Right. Globally,
and you can't do that.
Right. And you got to know that the only reason it was, I don't know this for sure. This is speculation. So what I should say is, you could probably imagine that Monsanto has either already written a contract or has a contract prepared for the cities that have legalized these plants.
Shit. Man.
Or a company like Monsanto.
Like, oh, you're going to legalize it? Cool. Sign here.
No, I don't know that for sure, but let's not be naive.
Yeah, I mean, to be naive with monsters like Monsanto, and I call them monsters because they're just like the Walmart of fucking, I don't know, agriculture.
It's true.
Walmart is it's the monster of retail.
Yeah.
Like anytime Walmart comes in, they bully everyone out.
Yeah. I mean, we basically have a monopoly with Monsanto. It's gotten that bad.
No, and then you listen to the interviews of all these, not only the scientists that they hired, but they're just so sold on the mission of Monsanto because they want to feed the world. They want to cure world hunger. And I'm like, all right, then why the fuck y'all planting that shit in Africa, cuz? What the fuck?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that they're all blinded by greed because, a lot of times those Monsanto executives will turn around, they'll quit, they'll turn around, they'll start working for the Department of Agriculture.
Oh yeah.
It's like, there's a huge conflict of interest that we don't get the benefit of doing anywhere else in the world, but it's like in America, that's just the way shit works.
And I want to think that we're the only country that does that, but no, there's other European countries that are just as bad as us.
That's true. That's true. I shouldn't say that, but
because they're growing that shit in Germany, they're growing that shit in the UK, they're growing it in but all parts of fucking Asia.
To an extent, Europe I think for about a decade has been way ahead of us as far as testing and regulating GMO use. Yeah. In Russia, it's actually completely banned. GMOs are not allowed in Russia.
Really?
Certain countries have completely banned them. I think right now Europe is like 50-50.
Whoa, but Russia is completely
Russia is GMO free.
That is fucking crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Which makes you think like, okay, is that like kind of one-upping the US?
Oh yeah, because you're having healthier a population of people who are, I mean, this is at a base level. You're going to be less allergic. You're going to be healthier. You're going to be. It really has a lot to do with the glandular system. Yeah, GMOs and that kind of stuff. It really affects our hormones a lot on a level that's hard to understand because if you're eating a lot of GMOs, then you don't know what it's like to experience what it's like to not have GMOs. Yeah. And we've kind of gradually been ushered into this era of all the foods being GMOs, but it was a slow process, but that's what it's become. It's become all GMO now. And you can't really say like, how did I feel before I ate all GMOs? It's hard to tell, but the people in Russia are reaping those rewards. They are 100% clean. Mm. And that's just the population benefits. Then you also have the agricultural benefits, whereas that their soils and everything
the dirt,
it's all going to be, it's all going to be cleaner and more sustainable for future generations because the problem with GMOs is that you're sucking out all the nutrients faster. That's the whole thing is that the GMOs make the plants grow bigger and faster. So we're sapping the nutrients out of our soil. Yeah. And each new season, we've got a less fertile soil. And the soil is only replenished by our rains and specific cycles of Mother Nature. And if you're trying to ramp that up beyond what nature is capable of doing, you just can't keep up, So we're trying to synthesize and artificially create this phenomenon of agriculture that is just not natural.
Now, for those listening or watching, we keep seeing the word GMO. I know it's a buzzword right now. What is a GMO? The best way to describe a GMO is, I guess you could call it a steroid.
Yeah, it's actually
it's the best analogy. It's a steroid. Sure. What for humans, for example, when you use anabolic steroids, what are you introducing to your body? You're introducing an abnormal amount of hormones for growth, any kind of growth. It could be muscle growth. It could be, I don't know, you can grow shit that shouldn't be growing.
Testicular growth?
Fucking big ass teeth and shit. Eyeball growth, I don't know. But it's a very unorthodox way to grow a plant. So you inject a plant with GMOs, you're basically introducing what is called a PED, a performance enhancing drug. And what happens with PEDs? You replace all your natural vitamins, electrolytes, nutrients, hormones, everything with a brand new It's like basically like, what's the best thing I can describe it to? It's like pouring hot water on a painting. You just go, you just fucked it up. And everything's just fucked up. And why? Because you wanted to put fucking hot water on the painting.
Right. Now it's not only a steroid in the analogous, perspective, but it's also an antibiotic, meaning that
it is an antibiotic. That's right. Yeah.
In analogy terms, because we're basically making these plants grow faster and stronger, but we're also making these plants more resilient, meaning we're firing at them stronger pesticides.
Right.
So in order to make sure that the plant survives,
right,
not only are we killing all the bugs that are trying to eat the plants, but in order to make sure the plant survives, we're making it resilient to all these chemicals. So we're kind of like adding certain chemicals to it,
right,
to make it,
And then what happens is this lands at your local Vons, Ralph's, now Trader Joe's and Sprouts, unfortunately, and you're eating it.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because if you shop at Sprouts and you think everything you're eating is healthy, you still got to look out for that GMO label. Yeah. The majority of produce at the Sprouts that I go to is still GMO produce.
Yeah.
They do have a good section of organic, but it is smaller than the rest.
So what's the moral of this conversation? Try to grow your own shit because it's hard.
Do mushrooms.
And then just take a bath in DMT. Just wipe shit all over your face and start tripping. But
I figured all this out, by the way, just so I can say shout out to my cousin. I was in Oakland this past week to go see my cousin Rio Ruiz.
Shout out to Rio, man.
Rio Ruiz, a boy.
Baltimore Orioles.
Doing it in the bigs. Big
they're
leagues.
22-55, but it's okay.
You know what? He's a big leaguer.
He's doing the shit.
He's in the show.
He's doing the damn thing. He's doing the damn thing.
He's in the fucking show, all right?
He's interesting to have on a podcast.
Yeah. So I went to go see my cousin who plays with the Baltimore Orioles.
They played the A's, right?
They played the A's. Yeah. We went to go see him in Oakland because that's close to where we live.
Yeah.
And he was coming to visit. So we caught him up there, and I just happened to see an advertisement or something about Oakland legalizing the plants, and that's how this whole thing came up.
Really?
Yeah, that's how I figured it out.
So did your brother see it too?
No, I don't know. But if he did, he didn't say anything. And
had I deep down going,
had I been more prepared,
finally,
had we had more time, I would have been like, "Hey, bro, let's go get some mushrooms."
Okay, dude. Let's go down the rabbit hole, bro. Let's go find out what the fuck this life's about.
Oakland's a little scary, more inland, but Oakland is a cool fucking city. I would love to go back to Oakland. I've been there twice. It's actually, I've been there more than twice, but twice, where I was able to enjoy it for a few days.
Yeah. I mean, it has its urban quality because it's open.
Right.
I mean, it's
just like
not
any town
across the bridge.
Yeah, just like any town, it's got its good and bad places, but the bad places are very, very, very bad.
Yeah. And then people say like, oh, that's why they keep those people across the bridge, and then everyone lives comfortably in San Francisco. But San Francisco has a problem with homelessness right now. And these are not the most friendly transients in California. They are very aggressive. They have nothing to lose. They're way worse than the ones in LA. And it's fucked up because it's like, what are we gonna do?
You got prostitutes in San Francisco?
Oh shit. Really?
Are there?
I don't know, but they should legalize that shit too. All right, so which brings us to another topic is you legalize a plant, now you legalize prostitution, sex working. And I know a lot of you are going, fuck that. No, I say fuck yes, because think about the shit that's going to happen if you legalize sex workers. One, the cartels are going to be like, whoa, what the fuck? Like, now what? Two, it's going to minimize a lot of, I want to say, the expenses of not only the American people, but people in California in general. Because think about where your taxes are going to. They're being funded for the creation of brand new out of the open air, brand new task force to focus on these sex rings. And yes, there's been a lot of horror stories, man. I've not only with the shit. Remember the girl from what's her name from Smallville that just got popped?
What?
For the sex ring? Yeah,
oh dude. Yeah, I remember that.
So
she was tasked with like recruiting, right?
Yeah. And I've read stories, like for example, in Mexico, they have a guy, he's trained specifically for this. He meets a girl here, right? Invests everything, not just the charm, but dicking him good and making him fucking leg shake till break it down, bro. And they invest in them. They have kids. They spend like 7 years. Ugh. 8 years, right? All is good. And then like this, bro.
Time to go to work.
Beating on them. Start fucking doing drugs. And then like, I was like, whoa, it's all pre-fucking meditated, dude.
That's scary.
I forgot what they're called. But it's like, whoa, what
dirt
the
bags,
fuck, dude? Yeah, piece of shit.
Psychopaths.
And then they traffic them. They pimp them out internationally. And then they start recruiting other girls.
Well, I got some facts here that I pulled up.
Bring them up.
This is going to be really controversial for a lot of people. The idea of legalizing sex work, and this is going to be kind of a sensitive subject for some, very polarized in the political spectrum. But I think it would be a good idea, like legalizing plants. You're gonna take away from the power of the underground crime ring, and the government's going to have a little bit more control over it. I know it's a stupid thing to say, but really what you were saying is the best way to put it, where we're going to take money out of all the task forces that we have in trying to fight these rings. Not like they're going to completely go away, but if you put, legalization on it, then people can, like the way capitalism works, people will start creating their own businesses for sex work and stuff the right way, quote unquote. It's like I said, it's a sensitive subject. It's kind of weird to talk about, but it's important because we want to take a very disturbing industry that, whether you want to admit it or not, it exists and it's very bad, and it's not ever talked about much in as much as it needs to be anyway. Sometimes it's talked about, but not as much as it needs to be because it's so huge. We need to talk about this industry that exists, and we need to fight it somehow. And probably the best way is to legalize it, because women should have sanctity over their own bodies. Any person should have any kind of sanctity over their body. And I think that... And
there should be an actual age approval, like set, like 18 years old.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
obviously, the sensitive part of the subject is the child pedophilia.
It would be better if it was like 21.
Yeah.
But, the way that our system works, I think it probably would end up being 18. I think 18 is too young for a woman to really know what she wants to do and if she's doing it for the right reasons.
Exactly.
I think any woman,
even at 20, they're like, "What the fuck?" Yeah.
You know, exactly.
Yeah.
Any woman who really wants to sell her body like that, probably has.
I would say 21, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She probably has some things going on, you know, psychologically where she's not completely respectful of her own body, but still, it is what it is. Rather her be able to make that decision for herself than someone make it for her. Yeah. In a criminal situation. Yeah. So anyway, here are some statistics, because it's, you know, just to let you know how bad it is. This is actually, I believe this is worldwide statistics, but it still, you know, gives you an idea. We do really have a really bad underground problem in the United States. Yeah. So this isn't just, you know, some third world thing. Trafficking of women and children is the world's fastest growing crime.
Jesus.
And like I said before, I think that's because it's just not in the news enough. There are people who aren't aware that it's even really that bad. There are an estimated 24.9 million people trapped in forced labor via human trafficking worldwide. That's insane.
Fuck.
The majority of victims are women and girls. More than 50% of trafficking victims are sexually exploited, which, you know, I mean, it's just disturbing. God. In fact, the most common form of human trafficking is sexual exploitation, which, you know, you might think just because of the way that we started off this topic, that, you know, obviously, but not obviously, because there is a huge, I guess, sector of this crime that is about organ harvesting. Yeah. And that's really big because there are tons of rich fucking magnates in Asia or wherever that they need a ripe new fucking liver or something, and they're willing to pay the money to get it taken from somebody. The majority of sex trafficking victims are female. Men are also victims. Traffickers can be women too. Yeah, traffickers can be women too. As a matter of fact, it's actually like you were just saying, the person from Smallville, she was a trafficker.
Keep going.
Okay. So she was a trafficker, and she was helping to do it for somebody else, really, but she was doing it herself. Sex trafficking is happening in the United States. I'm going to read this little caption. It says, United States isn't immune to incidents of sex trafficking. In fact, the Urban Institute examined that they called the underground sex economy, which includes sex trafficking of 8 U.S. cities in 2014. That sounds like an incomplete sentence, but that was it. It estimated that those economies ranged from $39.9 million in Denver in dollars to $290 million in Atlanta, Georgia. Jesus fucking Christ.
That's a lot of money, dude.
That's insane.
That's a lot.
And that's just 2 cities. That's just, can you imagine
imagine the
LA and New York?
Oh, Jesus, man. That's fucking crazy.
The number of human trafficking victims in the U.S. could be on the rise, although there are no official numbers or estimates regarding the number of human trafficking victims in the United States. A nonprofit working to combat modern-day slavery and human trafficking said they saw a 13% jump in identified cases from 2016 to 2017.
Holy shit, man.
The organization believes the overall number of human trafficking victims in the United States is somewhere in the hundreds of thousands.
Whoa, what the fuck?
Yeah, and you know who was onto this was Chris Cornell. He had Chris Cornell, the lead singer of Soundgarden, had a major organization that was trying to find abducted children, and what they had found was that a lot of them were going into sex rings.
Fuck.
If you guys want to get into that shit, that's a whole nother rabbit hole.
So that's a rabbit hole that we're safely going to say is, can you imagine if someone that was exposing such things was quote unquote offed?
Yeah. So Polaris, a United States organization, hotline received more than 6,000 reports of sex trafficking in 2007. It said it was notified about 6,244 cases of sex trafficking. The majority of those cases concerned escort services. So I'm going to stop it there. There's more information, but the whole point is that if you legalize it, then those escort services that are already legal in Nevada, I feel like they're going to be diminished because of the competition of people who are doing it more legally, or via women who are doing it from their own will, versus
like
the other way around.
Even like they can have a build out somewhere. They can buy a home and make it into a total like not even a bunny ranch, like a bunny house.
Right. I mean,
and get an LLC and they're fucking tax deductible.
Yeah. There's nothing necessarily like Christian about it. Cause this is where in my mind, I feel like you're going to have those super religious people who are like, that's obviously against God's will and all these kinds of things. But sex crimes and sex traffic is just so much worse.
Oh, definitely. By far, man. By far.
I don't know. It's you can choose either way, but the fact of the matter is that it's happening. It's worse than you probably imagined.
Yeah.
And I think that legalizing it is a way to combat it.
Yeah. And the biggest problem with, of course, legalizing
the work of sex, not the sex rings. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Because these sex rings are created from abductions and forcing women to work against their will.
I mean, and then you have to, this is another question I had. Can, for example, downtown LA, have a red light district? Can they?
Like Amsterdam or something, right?
Can they? The answer is yes.
I think they could, yeah.
Yeah, it can. And where would it be? And then you have to imagine that. And of course, it's got to be away from all the riffraff, of course. Yeah. It's got to be like a designated place where you're like, okay, this is where we go and pay for sex. This is where we go and pay for drugs. And everything is, of course, regulated. Like everything's sanitized. Everything is disease free, hopefully. And there you go. But that reminds me of like, I don't know if you've seen this shit in Vancouver, BC. They have stations that are open they have certain operating hours, but you can go and take your own heroin and get high there in front of trained medical staff.
Do what you got to do.
But it's like, okay, you can get high from this time to this time. You do it in front of us. You get high, whatever. We make sure you don't die. And guess what? Then you leave. And whatever you do outside of that, then it's completely it's your discretion and it's not our problem.
Right.
But you can always come back tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Yeah. That's crazy, right? But it's true. They do have it. Now, can you have that in San Gabriel, for example? And the answer is yes, because this here in this area was high with, was on a high surplus of sex houses, they called it. And they were known as donut shops. Yeah.
I've been to a donut shop.
Yeah.
I got the strawberry jelly.
Oh. Let me get the sick coffee. But let's see how long we've gone.
That was a subliminal.
Yeah, we've gotten 57 minutes. Okay.
That was a subliminal shout out to Donut Man.
Hell yeah, right here on San Gabriel and Whitmore. You know, his name is Lay.
I think it's time for our ASMR break.
Oh yes. So
we're gonna
talk like this.
We're gonna do a quick break for ASMR where we just whisper to each other, and this is for your listening pleasure. Okay, you ready? I'm going to begin this ASMR break with a haiku about nature. Okay, here we go. Salt water splashing. Sea creatures play hide and seek in the deep blue sea. Tree branch sways slowly as a child sings a sweet song. Gracefully it goes.
We tried.
That was good. That was good.
I remember I did one, and it was on just reading a Twitter feed, but whispering. And some crazy shit came up on my feed where it was like this black dude fucking talking shit to this one fool. And I swear, I'd never dropped so many M-bombs in my life.
Oh my God. Yellow.
Because he, I guess, was calling out some dude on Twitter for fucking his baby's mom.
Damn.
Yeah, and I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna cap your ass, cuz.
That's a psych out. You know, drop some ASMR beef on someone.
That's fucking crazy. Like, I'm gonna fuck you up, man. Fuck you. Don't fucking come up. I'll pull up. Fuck you.
Spread your ass, bitch.
Wow. Like that.
All right.
God, this was such an informative podcast. We can talk for fucking hours, I swear, but
We really could.
any other plugs that you want to mention before we cut?
Let's see.
I know we already established that Kyle is a one-man band on Venice Beach. It's a guy fucking playing Beat It with the bass on his foot. And
Get a fucking snare drum strapped to my ass cheeks.
like that. For all of you listening that want to come check out Kyle, this week's schedule is starting Thursday at
Bread and Barley.
Bread and Barley in West Covina. And
Followed by Friday
is
at downtown LA, which you're not invited to. That's a private event. Hold on.
it's like, fuck all y'all, you can't come to this party.
Hold on, I'm opening up my calendar. Vertical Wine Bistro is this coming Friday at 9 p.m. That's for my birthday. My birthday's on Friday.
Oh, shit.
Come on down. Bring your friends and dog and your mom.
Bring your neighbor's mistress.
There you go.
Like, what are you doing here? Hi.
And I got 2 private gigs on Saturday. Then the Smack Tones at Mount Low Brewery in Arcadia at 5 o'clock.
And if you listen to this and if you see Kyle, give him a high five and buy him a beer.
Yeah.
And some soda water.
It's been fun, man.
Some fart water. Well,
thank you.
And we'll upload this as soon as possible. And go
to Oakland and get some fucking mushrooms.
Fucking yeah. I mean, don't go to Colorado unless you have a plane ticket. But that's all for today. Thank you. And thank you, Carl.
Thank you, Edgar.
We'll do another one.
Peace, brother.
Peace.